Well, this is a podcast that's been a while in the making. I'm going to tell you how long we started talking about doing this. About 3 months ago, we decided to do a classic rock album review. Time, effort, time never worked out. Tonight, welcome to RiverCity Media's first ever classic rock album review. My dear friend of 40 years, you're old, Mark Cumnock is joining us. Tonight, we're going to talk about this piece of work, something we both loved in 1984. It's Ratt, Out of the Cellar. Just classic sound right there, Mark.
It is. And I mean, we've talked about it so many years, but to say I was an early Ratt fan is a horrible understatement. I mean, I was into him, and I had a EP scratched out of a Mickey Ratt, and it was Jakey Lee, and it was real rough, and I was kind of into it, and I kind of wasn't. And then I got the EP, and it exploded, and I wore y'all out with it. I mean, I was like, hey, you hear this band? And like, yeah. And I'm like, no, you really got to hear this band. And then I got to see them live before they got big, and I knew they were going to be big after that. They came on the stage, they were opening act, and they came out in these fighter coats, like they had the ringside manager, they came out ready to fight. And they were opening up for, of all people, Billy Squier, and they blew him off the stage. And I mean, they blew. No, I'm telling you, they blew him off the stage. They had to stop the show.
I assume you saw that in Arkansas. Were you
I did. When I'm saying they blew him off the stage, they had to turn the lights on. They had pushed his stage, the crowd, and I was in it. We pushed that stage 6 feet back. People were trying to get to them, and I was like, these guys are going to be big. And I think Out of the Cellar might have been 2 months old by then, and not really anybody was hearing it. And then I think it was just a couple months later after that Round and Round got introduced on MTV. I felt kind of honored that I saw these guys before many people did.
So let's start there. We both went to high school together. We've known each other since we were freshmen in high school.
Went to college.
Went to college together. Flunked out of college. I did a couple of times. You kept going back and forth from Arkansas. We were crossing each other's path. Right. We knew each other well. We've been to hundreds of concerts together. But the environment in 1984 was, it was a great scene that was breaking open. We were in a small town in Tennessee, East Tennessee, which really, we were kind of the outlaws for listening to what we did. But you, like me, I found this stuff in the back of magazines and tape traders. But all of a sudden, it was on the local record store. Had Ratt, had Motley Crue. Yeah. And it was just exploding. Mark, what was that like? This music that was kind of our
that's funny you said that. So there was a couple of musician magazines. I was starting to play by then. And the only way you could get music, there was no internet. So you would go in the back of these magazines because everything around us was country music. Yeah, and I mean hardcore country music. Twangy. And, you like you said, you were an outlaw if you listened to this stuff. And then lo and behold, like you said, you would go to the record store and there would be like one copy of this guy. And we all passed the music around back then.
Yeah.
And I remember getting a cassette from a friend that I borrowed. And, you wouldn't, if it was really good, you paid for it. You're like, hey, I'm not giving it back.
$7.99.
Right. And it's mine. It's not yours anymore. So, and that's the way it was with Ratt. One of the guys that we ran around with went to some obscure record store in Florida on vacation and brought it back. He says, I think you'll like this. It's not my kind of music. And sure enough, man, first thing I heard, you think you're tough. It blew up. And then, I don't know if you remember, we used to listen to these guys on TV. It was a Don Kirshner Power Hour.
Yeah.
I would take naps in the afternoon to listen to this hippie show at 1:00 at night. I think it went from like 1 to 5.
Yeah.
And there was a rumor that Ratt was going to be on there at the last little bit when everybody was already asleep, right? And that video is on YouTube, and it's got Robin Crosby just tearing it up. And Warren DeMartini is just now he's still got stage fright. And that's about the time I saw him. And like you said, too, the other genres going on was Motley Crue, and they were starting to come out of the woodwork.
Right.
And it was just like, what is this music? And everybody forgets we had that new wave stuff on the radio, and it was horrible.
It was really a strange time. Now that you MTV really hadn't completely. It was soon to come.
I hadn't seen it.
It was soon to come and to break wide open. FM radio was really playing a lot of English pop music, Aha, and stuff that I just did not like. It was
brutal. If you liked any kind of music with guitar in it, or I'd even say thrash. We were starting to hear thrash.
Yeah.
But it was a bootleg underground stuff, It was like, hey, I got this tape you can borrow. I'm not giving it to you. It was just looking back, I didn't realize what a change in time it was. To me, looking back, it was just as good and a defining moment as later when grunge showed up, and then
it really was, but it gets lost in and granted, it gets silly in the next 5 years with some of the.
It got stupid. I mean, that's what grunge blew them out of the water. But I noticed, like, when we were going to talk about this, I did some research just to see other people's opinion. And the part that I hate, the genre that I hear of it now, is glam metal. Ratt is not glam metal. Let me say this: early Ratt is not glam metal. Now, post Out of the Cellar, I would probably agree with you. But that early stuff, the Mickey Ratt and the EP, and then this album, Out of the Cellar, those guys were rocking it, man. And if you got to see them live, if they'd come out just wearing black thrash metal clothes, they'd have been thrown in another genre, without a doubt.
Right. And unfortunately, you're right that I think and we'll get into that, the own success of the Round and Round video, which we'll talk about. Right. Their own success actually done this band in a little bit, and there's a lot of tragedy.
Yeah, and I've got some stuff I want to talk about on that too. Because I'm still, I'll say I'm a Ratt fan, but I'll always put a little asterisk with that. I'm Out of the Cellar Ratt fan,
right?
And Out of the Cellar, I'm starting to teeter-totter because I know what the music sounded like before Out of the Cellar. And I still think Out of the Cellar is a fantastic album.
It was,
and I still call it an album. It's LP.
Right. It was wrote. I like to look at the time that an album was wrote.
Right.
And you find out what's going on. And all these songs, even some of these songs appeared on the EP. I know.
Yeah. That's where I get a little lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. But it was also to say that time too was the arena rock thing was real. We saw, and I'll just give you reference. I know you and I went and seen Aerosmith together. We saw Ozzy Osbourne together. We saw Ratt. We saw Motley Crue. It was a huge scene. About once a month, even living in Chattanooga, Tennessee, we got a show of somebody of major star power.
And you had to see music that way too. That's what people forget too. There wasn't around us. It didn't get put on the radio. I would go see family across the country. As soon as I got to go see my cousins, I was like, put it on your rock station. And they're like, man, what's this guy on dope? Because we didn't get to hear it here. So I would go hear a band that I knew I was going to hate, like REO Speedwagon. I don't have anything. I can't even name you one song. But that was the only way to see it. And the other thing too, I would go, even if I knew that headlining act was not my stick, I was there to see the opening act.
Right.
Because they were usually up and coming, and that was a way you were going to hear about somebody.
So let's talk about the albums that were released in 1984.
Right. There's a ton of them, man.
And I just wrote a few of them down. Power Slave, which is one of my favorite Iron Maiden albums, are released.
A true classic. That is a true classic album.
Ride the Lightning, Metallica, which does not break the mainstream, but it's released regionally. But it was out there. Defenders of the Faith, Judas Priest was huge at the time.
When I first heard it, my head exploded. That was a game-changing album for them.
My favorite album of this year probably is Last in Line by Dio. The former Black Sabbath singer. Was just a great album.
Right. And I'll be honest, Randall, when that came out, I actually thought that Dio was on his way out. You know, Black Sabbath wasn't the thing anymore technically. And like he's just washed up. Man, it was good while it lasted. And when that one came out, holy moly!
And the band around him was exceptional.
Oh, he did an Ozzy Osbourne. He got good people around him, and he can write music, and the man can sing. Bless his heart.
What would become, in probably the next 3 years, one of the biggest bands of the era released its first album in Queen's Rock, Fair Warning, which at some point we keep doing this, we will talk about Operation Mindcrime and how good of an album it is. But Queen's Rock was breaking, but Queen's Rock wasn't to the point. They were still, I think they went on tour with Kiss, if I'm remembering it correctly.
They did, and that's what I was getting at too. If you had asked me at that tour, who's Queen's Rock? I'm like, are you what? I'm like, man, what kind of music's that? Is that, that's not rock? I called it more like opera. And then when I really sat down with that album, I was like, holy moly, was I wrong?
It's a great album.
It's everything's good about it. But Ratt's right in there. That's why we're talking about it. And that's why I don't like hearing glam metal. It's just, they're not. Well, they're not poison.
And that word hair metal bothers me.
Yeah.
So
it bothers me too.
Let's give the background. Ratt is not an LA band. They come out of San Diego, which I later moved to San Diego for a period of time. And Ratt was still held in high esteem in the San Diego area.
Right.
Moved to LA. They cut an EP, which has some regional success, Mark. And that EP gets re-released at the same time or right after Al the Sailor does. So they've got 2 albums on the shelves. I heard the EP first because of, and I don't know if you remember it, in the back of Cream magazine.
Oh yeah, that's how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a copy of the EP. Where were you at the first time you heard Ratt, and what were you doing?
So I was actually visiting with a buddy, and it's our buddy Andy. We both know him. He got me that tape, and it says, "Hey, I was down in Florida with my family," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is great. Yeah, family vacation." He goes, "No, man, I brought you a cassette back. I know you'll like it. I don't like it, but I know you will." So I put it away for a little bit, and I'm going down the road somewhere, and I put that cassette in. And I mean, it sounds corny. There's 2 times that's been a defining moment for me musically. Is when I heard Cowboys from Hell from Pantera, and when I heard You Think You're Tough. I was like, what is this? Because it was new wave music then, keyboard, monkey on a keyboard. And I was like, oh my God, that's a guitar, a real guitar. Wait a minute, that's 2 guitars. Wait a minute, that guy sounds a little bit like Piercy, or Piercy sounds a little bit like Judas Priest, but wait a minute, that sounds more bluesy. What's going on here? And then I play bass. Mm-hmm. And then Juan Crucier, he's a fantastic. I can go off on a rant on that, but fantastic bass player. And one of the reasons Ratt imploded was due to him leaving. But yeah, where I was at, I was going down the road, and I actually pulled over. I had a great stereo, and I didn't want to wreck because I turned that thing.
Dodge Dart.
Yeah, I thought the glass was going to break in that car.
So,
and
is it fair to say at that time, you and I, and Aerosmith was a dead band, but you and I both loved Aerosmith?
Yeah. And so I'll do another preface on it. I still do, early Aerosmith. Done with Mirrors is when I'm out.
Yeah. Before Janie got her gun, you and I were Aerosmith fans. And I remember you actually gave me a copy of this album, or somehow you got a copy of this album too.
Yeah, I was bootlegging tapes by then. I had a double deck.
But you used the word Aerosmith. Are they still some Aerosmith feel in Ratt, or were we just so limited in the bands?
No, I thought about that, man. So you go to the EP, they've got Walking the Dog on there, which is a Rufus Thomas. I think it was from the 60s, 63. And then they did it. So I always thought that was a tip of the hat to Aerosmith and the older guys that were ahead of them. I also thought it was well played. If you didn't, because remember, they were trying to get signed to a big record label. And they love genres. So, hey, we can fit them in with the Aerosmith crowd. And I think that helped them get signed because it really doesn't fit their line of work. And that song kind of out of place on the EP.
Yeah.
But
but it did the vocals, if anything. Stephen Pearcy has a Steven Tyler feel almost, or
when he's going for that upper and he's getting real nasally, he's using Rob Halford and he's using Steven Tyler, which is a great, if you're going to try a style, that's a style to have. The only thing that bothers me with Stephen Pearcy's singing style is it's worn his voice out.
It's horrible now. I went and seen Ratt, and I still love Ratt, guys. I
do too.
But I went and seen Ratt in, I think, 2007, or they had sued each other so much now.
Oh man,
Pearcy
I'm touching that too.
I think you had to use Stephen Pearcy, a former member of Ratt or something, but it sounded nothing like it.
Yeah,
and it really was painful to hear his vocals.
I got to see him about that genre time frame. He was early in the tour. He had Puddle of Mud before they were signed. They were the Fred Durst project.
Yeah.
And his voice was on fire that night. And I didn't realize what he was doing until I did some more research. Because I was a Mickey Ratt fan. Because as you know, I'm a big Jakey Lee fan.
Right.
And when he started playing the Mickey Ratt stuff, I was like, why? You know what? Then I found out they were suing each other so bad he couldn't be touched because he owned the Mickey Ratt material.
So
and he was outside of his tour bus signing and autographing, and he had the Mickey Ratt CDs out, and you can find that on YouTube. There's a picture of him holding a whiskey bottle. So and it is a ton of it's Ratt. I mean, they've had so much material for that album. That's when I hear that, Out of the Cellar is their first studio LP. I don't think so. If you throw in Mickey Ratt, it's really their second.
Well, let's
that's the truth. That's the fan nerd part coming out.
Juan Crucier said he was already living in $1 million home on the beach when he joined Ratt. So there was some money around this band already. Robin Crosby, I think, is somehow related to Bing Crosby. I don't know.
He is. And, things that are forgotten there, too. He was roommates with Nikki Sixx.
Yeah.
And then Nikki Sixx was getting backed by Mick Mars. Mick Mars' family is very wealthy.
So also, the manager of the band was Marshall Burrell, the grandson of Milton Burrell. So they were money. And the band, they say they're from San Diego, but the truth is they're from La Jolla. And La Jolla is one of the richest parts of California. So they could fund themselves to go into the studio. Where Motley Crue truly was dirt poor.
They were
eating some money.
Yeah. And with Ratt, too, with Marshall Burrell, where it gets lost in the shuffle there, too, he was Time Coast Records. And Time Coast Records produced a very, very high quality EP. And if you hear that, it's high quality. You go back to Motley Crue's EP, when they were just starting, oh my God, it's like a chain. Mick Mars sounds like a chainsaw because they didn't have any money to produce with. It's not and done.
You go listen to Come On and Dance and compare it to something like anything off that EP, and you got it. So, not to get, we'll get knowing us, we'll stay.
Yeah, I can keep going
if I don't push this forward a little bit. So the band gets signed. They get $150,000, Mark, according to Bo Hill, the album's producer. And Marshall Burrell takes part of that $150,000 and he spends it on stage equipment. And Bo Hill shows up to produce the album, goes to the record company and says, "Here's my budget, and here's how I spent the $150,000." The record company goes, "Well, you ain't got $150,000." And according to Marshall Burrell, the band desperately needed stage equipment, and he basically stole some money from the recording budget, bought them stage equipment. But later, the record company come back, give Bo Hill $150,000. For 30 days, they record an album that sells $3.7 million. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, so there's two sides. You look at, and I'm a little jaded here because I feel like I'm at this era of Ratt. I'm a true fan, and I'm playing their music by now. And I'm not. I'll be honest, man. I'm not a fan of Bo Hill, and I'm probably going to flame the internet with that. But it felt like, hey, they recorded with this running clock over their head. And the reason I say that, if you go back to the Time Coast records, and if you go back one more time to Mickey Ratt with Jakey Lee, the Jakey Lee era is rough, but it's still polished. It just needed a good producer to push them. So they've got all this material they come into the studio with. That should have been really, to me, a no-brainer. They already know. When I saw them live, they were tearing it up and they were tight. That was the tightest band I've ever saw. So going in the studio, they had their act together. It just, to me, when you listen to like Back for More and all that, it's a little muted and it feels like a Rush production job.
Is it over?
Still a fantastic album though. They had a lot of good material and very, very good players on that album.
So I'll say it again. I want your opinion. Is it overproduced?
No, it's underproduced. In my opinion.
So here's the other bands that Beau Hill worked with during his career. Alice Cooper, once Alice Goes Pop. Kicks, a very pop metal band. Winger,
with a very bright sound.
Yeah, Winger, ultimate kind of show pop band. Warrant, ultimate show pop band. Europe, another show pop band. And really
very good polished band sounding on their album though.
Yeah, it really that style of music, you get Beau Hill kind of forcing a little more cleanness into the right sound, and I don't know if that was good.
Yeah, and so when I hear like Winger, everybody, Beavis and Butthead, Winger they smash him pretty good. Probably ruined his career, but Winger's a very good musician. I mean, and he's a fantastic songwriter. And if you listen to his works, it's very clean and polished produced.
Yep.
This one's not. And to me, where the boat got left a little bit, Beau Hill wasn't supposed to be their producer. It was supposed to be Judas Priest's producer. And with Stephen Pearcy's voice sounding a little bit like Rob Halford, and I've heard Stephen Pearcy sing Judas Priest songs live. Holy moly. My head exploded when he did You Got Another Thing Coming. So I'm thinking if somebody could have exploited his voice a little better, and then you had Robin Crosby and DeMartini, I think they should have conjoined a little bit more for that Thin Lizzy sound they had when they were playing live. This could have been even a bigger album.
So
but
let's start right there and talk about Robin Crosby. Oh
my gosh, man.
The tragedy of this band, Robin Crosby dies in his early 30s. His stage presence, Mark, he was a great player, don't get me wrong, but he seems like Robin Crosby was the musical director of this band to me.
He was the glue of the band when I saw them. So when they came out and they were really, I wouldn't say they were a nobody locally, but they were definitely a nobody nationally at that time. He's 6'5", big blonde hair, and he comes out and Pearcy wasn't the leader that night. It was Crosby.
Yeah, and he looked like he'd kick your ass.
He looked like, ex-baseball player, fit, and the man could play. And if you don't, I hear DeMartini, he's very good with the finger and the fretboard, but where I thought Robin Crosby shined, he had a better melodic style. To the point, and people forget this, the man's got a guitar named after him. If you go to Jackson Guitars, it's the King. And if you don't think, you think it's just a rabid fan talking here. If you're a Megadeth fan, well, guess what Dave Mustaine plays? He plays the King. He added 2 more frets to that fretboard. He's playing the King's guitar. And but a side note there, I'm going to geek out on you. There is the King guitar, but there's the double Randy Rose Jackson, and that's what the majority of what Robin Crosby played, because it had that grungier sound.
Right. And
Robin Crosby, man, the first 4 songs on the EP, that's him. The later stuff in Invasion, those riffs were written by him, and he gave them to his co-partner there. So, and Back for More on both albums, that's him. So
here's the important question. The LA scene since 78 had been one guitar. Randy Rhoads, Eddie Van Halen, the stuff that was blowing up. Did Ratt use 2 great guitarists at what they do to produce one sound that was similar to Eddie Van Halen or Randy Rhoads.
Yeah, so man, that's where I get goosebumps thinking about it. So
Robin Crosby was a great rhythm player, and I've said since day one, if you don't love Eddie Van Halen's lead, he's the greatest rhythm player of his.
Oh, Eddie Van Halen is a better rhythm guitarist than a lead guitarist, and he's a we all know what a great lead guitarist he is. If you'll go back, if somebody's really wanting to dive deep on this, it's on YouTube. Thank goodness. There's some old grainy footage of Robin Crosby playing live. Everybody, he's a great, everybody says he was more of the rhythm guitarist. No, he was not. In the early Ratt, he was clean, sober. They were Thin Lizzy on steroids.
Right.
They would be swapping back. And some of the filler material that you hear on Out of the Cellar was them playing their live licks back and forth. They only had a 6-song set.
Yeah. She Wants Money is, I think, a jam that they put words to.
That was their going back and forth on stage. And I feel really blessed I got to see that. And that's when I really became deep fan.
So Warren DeMartini is more the traditional guitar players like Warren DeMartini, like the guys who listen to Randy Rhoads and that crowd. They really love Warren DeMartini. I was a Robin Crosby guy.
I do too. His fretboard work is phenomenal. It sounds great. So I don't want to. Yeah, I'm not bashing him, but I will
sound, Mark. It is that Judas Priest sound that Robin Crosby gets that drives the music to me, that makes Ratt slightly different.
Well, it's funny you say that. So if you want to get in the weeds, they were doing the muted stiletto sound, which Judas Priest kind of broke the weeds and made the path for that. And that's just getting your palm, putting it against the body, hitting that string and bringing it back up and muting it. And you can really go fast with that. And it was like pre-thrash. I called it clean thrash. And Robin Crosby with that Jackson guitar with the Seymour Duncan pickups. That's it. That's the sound. And if you notice, 80s guitars are still being played today.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason. So, yeah, I can go on. And if somebody really wants to dive deep, Robin Crosby's last days, he's staying in a nursing home. And a guy calls him and interviews him. It's sad to listen to. It took me about 3 days to get through it. But there's a lot of insight of the early sound that they had going on and the songwriting and all that.
I've seen that.
So anyway, I'm a huge fan of him.
So got to pay some bills real fast. We want to thank our sponsors. We're here because of Marion Messenger, iLogic Media. These are the people that give our distribution channels. They are the folks that put us out there. And, of course, we always want to support our friends, Davis, Kessler, and Davis, Cherokee Boulevard. Our friend, Robbie Davis of 3R Sports on Tuesday night. For all your legal need, call 3R Sports. Yeah, don't call 3R Sports. Call Davis, Kessler, and Davis. And, again, the Marion Messenger, Mark, they're such a partner of ours. iLogic Media, Draft for the Upside. These people just give us open airspace. We just got to fill. I'm up to 5 hours. That just leaves me another 163 hours to fill. But those folks, support them, watch their stuff. So our 5-minute opening went 30 minutes. So let's get into the album.
I warned you. I mean, I'm pretty passionate when it comes to early Ratt. So.
All right. So the album comes out. On the front of it is Tawny Kitaen. At the time, Robin Crosby's girlfriend. That is a great image for a metal band. She had also been on the front of the EP with the white rats crawling up some stockings. That album cover was a attention catcher. Would you agree, Mark?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And for those that don't know her, she was also it's cliche-ish now. She was in the Whitesnake videos. Yeah. But if you want to see early Tawny Kitaen, she's in the Back for More video, and she's the girl playing the music in the jukebox. Yep. Very fresh, very 80s, gorgeous, bubbly, beautiful woman. And she just passed away, which is a shame.
Yeah, Tom Hanks' Bachelor Party still.
Yeah, I love that movie, man.
I love it.
It was very cliche, but it had 1,000 one-liners in it.
So that album, that cover sets a tone. Originally, the producer job goes to Tom Allen,
which who
had produced Judas Priest, What do you think this is the same album if we're sitting here?
No.
How many
No,
years?
absolutely
40,
not.
47, 37 years later.
And I'm a huge Judas Priest fan, and this sounds weird. I really don't care for their music. I care for their songwriting and their song structure and the dueling guitars. I'm a sucker for dueling guitars. And of course you got Rob Halford. And I just wonder, and I say that too, I also wonder when it comes to Rob Halford, I'm a huge fan of his band that he had there for a while, Fight.
Yeah,
And
I do like Fight too.
Yeah, and if you're a Stephen Pearcy fan, you're going to love that because he kind of did a tip of the hat back to Stephen Pearcy with that. And so you hear the influence of that production and you're like, man, what would have happened if? And I still wonder that, especially as gritty and raw as the EP was. And some of the songs on the Out of the Cellar, regardless of Bo Hill, still were, lack of communication and all those, they were in your face. And they haven't lost anything with time.
So
no.
The album gets made for $150,000, I think we talked about, in
Right.
30-day period. The first song on the album is Wanted Man, which is a huge, and Mark, I think it's proper to say there is no, people want to put Ratt in a power ballad.
Man, get out of here with that.
I don't know that Ratt ever released a power
ballad.
Name
me the song. Back for More. That, you get out of here with that. No.
So Wanted Man opens up with a back mass drum track that immediately brings your ear
in your face.
Yeah.
As soon as you put that tape in, boom, that was the first song. You're like, what is this?
So I want to play a little bit of that opening for everybody.
Yeah, and it's killer.
And hopefully I've got my little digital recording here. Let me run that back. That's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
Here we go. Play that again. Man, that really gets your attention. You don't know what.
Yeah, when that came out too, and I learned a little bit more about it, I thought that was a tip of the hat to Van Halen when they had their car horns. Remember, they played them backwards, and I thought this was a tip of hat to Eddie Van Halen and that group. He was a heavy influence. But regardless of that, when I first heard that, I was like, of course, it's just you already got the stereo loud in your car, right?
Yeah.
So your folks don't hear it. It's coming at you, and you're like, what is this? And it delivered. It wasn't like a little gimmick in the beginning. I mean, it had the bluster and the cockiness in it and the song and the writing. It was there.
So let me make a point in that car or in a home stereo. Bo Hill, one thing he did do is make very sure that if you listen to this on a good stereo system, you have a mix that is on the right side,
right,
Martini, and on the left side is Robin Crosby. And it's one of the real, you can almost fade this album left to right and hear each part individually. I do think that's something right he did in the album because it gives it a distinctive sound.
But I'll go here. Being a huge Van Halen fan I am, I think he ripped off Van Halen with that technique. That was Eddie Van Halen's poor man's reverb. If you get a Van Halen album, the early stuff, and you go left, right on the balance, that's how I learned the Van Halen songs. I could go all the way, I think it was to the left, and hear the bass, or I could go all the way to the right and hear Eddie. And I'm glad he did that because the way our stereos were back then, the technology's not where it's at. You didn't have compression and all that. It was either loud or off. So I think he did a good job on that.
To catch up just a little bit, now let's go on. And we've opened the song. I think it has an absolutely earworm quality.
Oh, it's hooky.
Of a chorus. And I want to play just a second of the chorus here, and let's take a listen to the chorus.
Okay.
Mark, that's my favorite part of the album. I think that's the best
Yeah,
writing
me
maybe on the
too.
album.
So another thing I think that really worked out well for him here. If you didn't know who Ratt was, and you're with your buddy in the car, the band's kind of making an introduction
First track
of themselves. I kind of laugh about it now, but if you're a Limp Bizkit fan, how many times can Fred Durst say Limp Bizkit?
Yep.
They're kind of Rat's introducing Ratt to you. They're cocky. They're in the video really matched this song. They're like the Cowboys riding into town, kind of like Pantera at the Cowboys from Hell. They're coming, and that really blew that album. It got you. You're gonna sit down and listen to it.
And I wanna go one more spot in this song. While it's not technically the best lead, it really fits this song. I want to play you a 10-second clip of the lead, and I just think this is the Ratt sound. Now, Mark, I'm going to throw a band.
There's a reason you like that.
I'm going to throw a band at you that you never thought you would hear compared to Ratt. But doesn't that lead almost take a Skinner dueling guitar feel to it?
And it does, and that's why I like that lead. That is when Robin and DeMartini were working well together.
Yeah,
you can hear the finger fret, but then later you can hear, hey, I'm gonna really make this fretboard bring out the dynamic of the note. And that's Crosby's style.
So
a little bit more blues with a twist.
So I gave, and I don't know if you're ready to give every song a score. You don't have to give it a score, but I gave that song a 7.5. I think it's that monster of a song to open an album. That may be my favorite Ratt song of all time.
And I kind of rate songs, a little different. I would give it an 8, and then my acid test is. And I still listen to this music today, but if I don't like it, with today's stereos, I just fast forward it. Boom.
Yeah.
I hit the track. I will not pass this track up.
Yeah.
It's definitely an 8.
All right. So the next song is kind of a filler. We'll just listen to the open of it. It's a song called You're in Trouble. It's one of the better.
I hope you do the beginning of it because it's
kind of the crazy sounds. A lot of bass. A lot of bass. That's kind of Juan Crochet's. Hey, welcome.
Yeah. So, man, to touch on that. So me being the bass player I think gets lost in the shuffle too. Juan played for Dokken, and if you go to Wikipedia and all that, he briefly played for Dokken. That's kind of not true. He played a long time with Dokken.
He did.
And, there's an American Bandstand video with Dick Clark, and it's very early Dokken. And if you go listen to that stuff, you're hearing it now. And there's another version of this song that was released in the UK, and it's Early Time Coast. If you got the early Time Coast for EP, it's on there, and no bass is on there like that. There's your Dokken influence.
And you almost feel like he's plucking it a little bit, like kind of a slap bass in it, like a flea sound to it. That bump, 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 bump.
So what a lot of guys weren't doing then, and this is why I still like his style, although I don't like his antics on the stage. A lot of Ratt and that's another thing I still like Ratt. They do a lot of down picking, which is today our thrash, but he's coming back up, so you get that plucky sound,
right? And
he's using compression, which I thought was taking a risk. A lot of back then the finger slap back. People forget in '84 there was a lot of the Rick James style music, and to hear that on a hard rock album. I mean, I would play it for a laugh, and it would get people mad. And for him to do that on a CD album, that was pretty risky. And it's a good riff that he wrote. I'm a fan of this song.
It's a good song. The only thing I would say about this
I don't
song,
like the jungle in front of it.
I'm kind of, it's like it deserved better words. It deserved to be fully or filled out and vetted, and it could have been so much better.
And that's the thing where so I'm going to get on Bo Hill again. I've got the original version of this song, and it's Robin Crosby playing a streaming lead. It's through the whole song. His rhythm is actually the lead, and Piercy's coming in to that rhythm. It's a totally different sound. And then when Bo Hill got it, they're in a hurry. I know what he did. He cut a guitar part out. And I'm like, well, that's an easier way to do it, one and done. Because what Crosby was playing, it was out of time with that song, with the lyrics. And it was actually hard to play. And they cleaned it up and made it easy. I would rate this song a 7 just because of the bass riff.
I wrote the best bass riff in rap music. I gave it a 5.9. And I just hate the words.
I can see why you did that.
I hate the lyrics.
Well, the word, like, first time I heard it, I'm like, why'd you do that?
All right.
You ruined my song.
No other way to describe it than probably the downfall and the upfall of the band.
Yeah.
This song was on rock radio everywhere.
Even I got sick of it.
Every nightclub.
It was like, please don't.
It's around and around. Mark, it owned MTV. It owned.
Oh my gosh, man! You had instant rap. You know, here I go, right? Yeah. Man, I'm a Rat fan. I'm like, man, where were you at a year ago? You know, I loved it and I hated it. I'm glad to see they got the success out of it. I think it really showcases their musical ability. Bringing Milton Berle in that video, you know, for MTV, you had to have a video starting then about that time. They nailed that. I mean, they blew that video out of the water with that.
That was a great.
I mean, they've got a Geico commercial making fun of that.
It's still
it's
relevant today. I go to a nightclub or a bar now, and Round is Round is likely to come on as Katy Perry. I mean, it is that much part of pop culture. A good song, but not a great song, in my opinion, Mark. A good song. A poppy song. A radio song.
And here I go again. I've got the earlier version of this song, and it's got a lot of Jakey Lee and Les DeMartini in it. It's got a dude with Crosby in there, and they're really going with the dual guitars. I know it's kind of heartbreaking to me to hear. I can hear both versions, right? I do like this song. It's a game changer for them and the music scene.
As I always remember, Kevin DeBro of Quite Right said, you know, why would I not want to play Come On and Feel the Noise? It bought me a mansion in LA.
Right.
I'm sure Round and Round bought those guys a lot of things and changed their life. But
it changed the band. Did
it hurt the band in the long run?
Here's my opinion, and it's pretty strong. The reason I'm bittersweet about this song, and even Robin Crosby talked about it. I call it his death interview, and that's a terrible way to name it, but when he was in the nursing home, they had found out, you know, the money's starting to come in, and they found out about writing songs, how much more money they could be bringing in.
Right. And that song was wrote by, I wrote it down because I was actually kind of surprised. I think the whole band shares writing credit on Round and Around.
And that's a push by Crosby. By this time he's still a team player. He's wanting everybody to get along. But if you go down and Rat of the Cellar, and as a kid, I would see who was writing songs. That was, I guess it comes from my Kiss days. I wanted to see if Stanley or Simmons wrote it or Freely. So that stuck with me. And I'm seeing this, and then I'm seeing some of the different songs that I don't think are that great on this CD. I'm like, wait a minute. And then as time goes on, the stuff starts coming out of the woodwork. They were going after writing credits for the revenue. And by the time the next album came out, Invasion, the wheels are falling off because of it.
Right. Invasion was a million selling album, but nowhere near the size of Around and Round. I mean, the Out of the Cellar. But Mark, here's where I also draw the line. Here's where Randall, the Ratt fan, says, hold on, wait. I see this listed in the top 50 one-hit wonder bands of all time.
And that's not. It's just.
I mean, if you listen to the radio in 1985, that song was in strong rotation. Back for More was in strong rotation. Wanted Man was in strong rotation. The single Lay It Down out of Invasion of Your Privacy was the ultimate pop radio play song. Even getting into Way Cool Jr., stuff I didn't like.
Oh my gosh, I was out by then. It was like
even though we might not like it, to say they only had one hit is a lie when you can play 10 songs that everybody's heard from the radio.
Yeah, I'm going to go off sidetrack real quick. So you got Invasion with Lay It Down, and everybody said, and I'm going to sound like I'm picking on DeMartini again. That was a Mickey Ratt song. Sorry, folks. And Crosby wrote that riff. And then DeMartini, because he's great on the fretboard, slicked it up. And I think that's like what I was saying. That's when the wheels started falling off. They were starting to try to grab the more of the writing. And we'll go down the list of this album, and there's a true happening moment when that happened with this CD. And it's down the list here of when you listed the tracks. It happened, and it ruined the band. I know. What could have been?
Marshall Pearl was a very strong manager. He's managed several bands. I don't understand the dynamic that erupted inside of Ratt unless it was, and again, I don't want to get in people's personal lives. I don't care about their personal lives. But the whole thing with Robin Cosby, Tawny Kitaen, O.J. Simpson, it becomes worldwide news later on.
It was a sideshow.
And it's like it broke Robin Crosby. Then came his issues, which I don't care. I do care the man is dead. I loved Robin Crosby, but he died tragically by contracting HIV through intravenous drug use.
Right.
But that band, when his health took a turn for the worse, it was like taking the football coach off the field with the team to me.
It did take the football coach off. And, another side note there, when he started doing heroin, it's when he was with Nikki Sixx. If you read the Heroin Diaries, that whole time right there is happening. And, Nikki Sixx takes a fork in the road and gets clean, and Robin, it was too late. And so it breaks my heart of what could have been. And you're right. He was the coach. And it's funny you said that. When I saw them in the opening act, he was the leader of the band. I mean, there was no doubt. He was on stage right.
He's the musical director of the band.
Oh gosh. I mean, you could tell they were cueing off him what to do next, especially the leads that DeMartini was playing. When I saw him, he like I said it before, he had stage fright. And didn't open up till later.
It's not unusual to have a band like that. You think of Michael Seckner and the Scorpions. He was kind of the musical director as the rhythm guitarist on stage of the Scorpions. Right. In a lot of ways, I think the guy that gets the less credit in Motley Crue, Mick Mars, is the musical genius kind of like behind the music while Mickey writes the lyrics. Right. So you need that guy that's kind of
it's a band.
I'm going to put
the band's a team
all together.
And I've played with some guys that were great musicians, and I hated being with them.
Yeah,
you're dealing with personalities, and that's something else. This band does have strong personalities.
It does.
Stephen Pearcy and all those guys, Bobby Blotzer.
As Bobby Blotzer said, it was the most sued band that he had been sued by every member of the band at some point. And I think Bobby Blotzer actually owns the name Ratt at this point.
So. Yeah. And so, just to touch on one other thing, when you talked about Marshall Burrell, for those who don't know him, if you want to see him, if you go watch the Back for More video, and he's the guy in the cowboy hat pointing, that's him. And he was known to be a strong leader. He always wore the cowboy hat. And they said he was a strong-fisted manager.
Yeah.
And I think this coming from the entertainment family business, that it was sometimes just about the dollar, which I get. You know, it is a business.
He threw his hands up with the band at some point, has been what's been told.
Right.
The next two songs is In Your Direction, a good song, not great. She Wants Money, which to me is the worst song on the album.
I could differ with you on that, but the further you go down, you're like, man, what? Yeah, and that's another thing about this album. I'm not bashing it. I can listen to almost all of it.
I like In Your Direction. Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
I do too. And In Your Direction, I'm here. You know, I'm harping on this again. There's another version of it. And if you get the UK time coast,
I'm gonna play just a clip out of In Your Direction. And the opening to me is monster.
Yes.
I had it queued up for later, but the opening.
That's yeah.
And we've not mentioned him, but Bobby Blotzer comes up with some of the unfitness drum licks that fit somehow that I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's almost like it's bad jazz. You're like, that doesn't fit there. Okay, I guess it does fit there. And it's funny that you play that opening. So that opening, you hear the and the and the. So if you can imagine, that's what they opened with.
Yeah.
When I saw them. And they're coming out one by one, taking off the boxer's coat, and they're ready. And the guitar tech kind of brings, instead of the belt, brings the guitar and puts it on them. And man, they just go at it. After that, it's like, they blew everybody away.
A very red and black presentation on the stage too.
Right. And I think if that had been darkened up a little bit and a little later in life, it could have been thrash. It had the potential for that. And you can hear a little bit of Mustaine in that because of the King V guitar in there and Seymour Duncan's. But
I gave Round and Round a 6.5 because I've heard it so much. I'm sick of it. That would have been.
Yeah, I agree with you because it hurt them. It didn't have in the long run. It hurt them.
I gave In Your Direction a 5.5. I think it's one of the better of the filler songs, but not great. What would you give those two songs?
I'm right with you. I thought, too, seeing them live, I knew that was when I first heard it on the album. I said, that's filler. So, you already had.
What She Wants Money, wrote by Juan Croucier, is, to me,
terrible.
It's like, hey, we need another song. And it's a lick somebody had.
Well, so in my research over the years, that's where I was getting at. The songwriting. They were already making money from the EP. And they were seeing the residuals already starting to come in, and they were buying cars and everything. And the guys that had and they were bragging to each other what they were buying.
Right.
Instead of being teammates, hey, I just bought a new Jag. What? Come on, man. But the guy that got the Jag, because he had more on the songwriting. And Marshall Burrell had set up their contract for that. Because, the record company's always going to win, right? Yeah. Well, that was another way for them to win. And I hate that song.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's terrible.
I'm not a fan of it either. Now, let's get set. This would flip us over to side 2. Now, I had the album. We just finished off side 1. I usually made it through In Your Direction. I did not punish myself with I think I scratched She Want Money. So
I got to talk about back in the day. So I was so proud of this stereo I had. You didn't have tracks back then. It was still on cassette. And I had a cassette that could read it. And I could hit the button and it would fast forward a song. I used to drive people nuts that were road with me. Hey, I want to hear that song. And I'd hit the button, right? Hey, what happened to it? That song always got skipped. I couldn't even tell you half the song, even today.
Hey, my boy, Matt Piotrovich, one of the great guys in the world. Back for More, Matt has...
Oh my gosh!
We're about to get to it. Has the monster opening that I think that opening scores higher than anything I got. I agree with you. Back for more.
And that song right there is why I picked up an acoustic. It wasn't Spanish Fly. It was this song.
So we open up side 2, Mark. And again, let me drop my thanks, Matt, for joining us. Let me drop my plugs here. Marion Messenger, iLogic Media, Drafty the Upside, RiverCity Media. Please go like us on Twitter, RiverCity Media 3. Like us on Facebook, RiverCity Media. Go like our YouTube channel. If you like what we're doing, this is we are passionate about it. This, Mark, we know we're going to do at least one more episode now. And would you like to tell what the album that we've discussed doing for the second episode?
I get giddy talking about it. I'm going to be like a little schoolgirl.
So
I'm huge Dimebag Darrell fan. And I've got to talk about Pantera Cowboys from Hell.
So
life-changing event.
We'll probably record again in a couple of weeks. If you want more, again, we're grown men, grown jobs, grown responsibilities, but we'll bring you what you want. So let us know. So side 2, we flip over to, and it starts with a song that I always think, and it's not a story we can tell on air, but there's a certain friend of ours. Every time I hear this song, it reminds me of him. But it has a feel of a cheap counter.
Man. I still, when I hear that riff, I'm like, holy crap. You just played it and I got goosebumps. That is a hard driving song.
That is a monster riff. And shout out to our boy Alvin.
Yeah, there's a backstory to that song again. It's back to the songwriting stuff. It's even, I think it was in the VH1 Behind the Music. Juan Crucier's kind of mad about this song. And I did some more reading over it over the years. Piercy was having trouble. He's got a certain style with voice. Right. And if the inflection doesn't fit, you write a different lyric. It didn't fit what he wrote. So now they got co-writing. And it kind of started the friction of Juan leaving the band. And it was this song, which I think, I'll be honest, I kind of lost respect for Juan a little bit because I'm thinking it's more about the team here. And that song, if you ask me what's my favorite song on this album, that's it.
So it's funny you should mention that. In my notes, I want to play a little bit of the chorus. In my notes, I made the point. The chorus and the rest of the song almost doesn't go together.
They don't.
Now, I want to take you through this little bridge. And it's like
right there. Right there too.
It's almost like we got a couple of songs and we're trying to piece one song out of it to make
well, so from the research I've done with this, they've got the riffs, they got the bass, they got the drums, and Piercy is in the studio. He's really struggling with that. And so you hear that Rob Halford bring, Halford can get higher, but he's bringing up that voice. He wasn't reaching it with the lyrics that were written. So that's why it's kind of got that piecemeal sound to it. But I'll be honest, man, one of the reasons I love this song is because it is a little rough. It reminds me back to the EP days. It doesn't have to be slick to be good. And I think that's where Bo Hill missed it a little bit.
It has the most Judas Priest feel of the song.
I'm surprised Priest doesn't cover this song. And I'm a fan of this, man. And two, what opened my eyes with the Halford Priest feel when they were suing each other. When I saw Piercy on tour, he did a lot of Priest songs because he could get away with it, copyright wise. And dude, he nailed him. It wasn't like, oh, he kind of sounds like him. He was singing better than Rob Halford that night. And I was like, okay. And that's why I hear the friction they had writing the song, I would have let it go. If it fits your voice is an instrument. Go with it. And I love, like I said, I love this song. I can go on and on and on and on about it.
This song live was one of the monster moments of the show.
Yes.
And I want to say this is struggling. This may have been the callback to the stage encore before Rounding Around. I don't remember 100%. I just know.
I think later when they were headlining, it was, and I think when I saw them, it was a mid-set, and the guys got to take a break, and Crosby kind of was, here he is, the leader again. They're having to re-up and retune, and back then, people forget too, we were constantly tuning guitars back then. So they went off, and he brought out the acoustic while the tech was tuning his electric. So it was a great song for that. And I always wonder if that was not another reason they wrote that.
And also mid-set, if you hear a good concert mid-set, you're going to have this moment.
Right.
Mark, here, question from my boy, Matt. Do you think about Warren DeMartini using one pickup on his guitars? That was a unique sound at the time.
Well, so I think too, this is where, I'm more passionate about Crosby than DeMartini. In my opinion, if you remember Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstein with all the pickups.
But he was playing 2 out of phase, was he not?
Right. But there for a long time, he's only playing 1. Okay. And he was sandbagging everybody. He had the Seymour Duncan off to the side. So I think everybody was trying to get more of that Van Halen sound. And that's another reason I like Crosby. Crosby was kind of doing his own thing. And then when Grover Jackson picked him up with the King V, he definitely was getting his own sound by then. So the one pickup, a lot of guys were doing it by then. I don't know. It's definitely a sound of that time, especially with the Seymour Duncans.
I heard Kurt Hammett say one time that you don't change your rig because you date a song. Yeah. And I think sometimes when you have one pickup like that, Matt, that you can honestly, that one pickup sound, I can nail it within a 5-year period usually.
Yep, me too.
So it really, like Metallica at one point went real big and not writing leads into their songs. And Kurt Hammett's point was, guys, when we don't write a lead into a song, everybody's going to go, that's off of this album. It all sounds the same. Nothing's different about it.
Yeah. And I can go off. We could do Metallica one time, but they're kind of rewriting history. Those guys went to active EMG pickups.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. You were changing your sound. And after the Black album, anyway, I'm not going there.
Well, we got about 30 minutes and we've got the month.
Yeah, we got more. But anyway, back for more, man. If you're asking me what's my favorite one, other than lack of communication, and then my soft spots for back for more.
I'm going to let it play for a little bit. Just get into it. Great lick.
Oh, man. Right there. Man.
First, let's give a score to lack of communication. I gave it a 7.
Yeah, you know what I'm giving it? I'm giving it 9.5.
Awesome.
To me, it could have been thrash.
Back for more, the guitar opening, it is the most complete classic rock song on this album. This is a piece that you can put in a vault and it's going to be good 20 years from now. It was good then. I don't think, in my judgment of an album sometimes, Mark, I think when you listen to it, how dated does it sound?
Yeah, it can happen quick.
Yeah, Round for Round is very dated to that period. Back for More is not dated. It could have been 1984, 1994. It is a very classical wrote song, great lyrics, great video. My, I had been a Ratt fan, but that 30 seconds I played right there is probably when I became a super fan. I love this song.
Yeah. So, I talk about the EP. I got sucked in when You Think You're Tough. And I was like, man, great. These guys, I was hungry for something hard rock. And then when I heard that, I was like, wait a minute. These guys are better than what I thought they are. And the deep cut on the EP to this, I'm glad I got two different versions. And normally I don't say that the EP versus this album. I'm glad I got two different versions. And two, I'm a Robin Crosby fan. I get to hear him play twice.
Most of the things that were across from the EP to Out of the Cellar, I prefer the EP version, but Back for More, I
can take either one.
This version.
Yep.
So let's break this down just a little bit. Live, it was a monster. Robin Crosby this was his spotlight and the opening of this song. And it was really special, man. I heard this song on the radio about 6 months ago, and I have my 11-year-old daughter who's a little metal fan.
Yeah, she is.
But she really does not like dated music. She hears this on the radio, and she's reaching over and cranking it up. She don't know that if it's released now or then.
Right.
It's timeless, Mark.
Yeah, and I was blown away when I saw them. So they had a guitar stand with his acoustic out there. Kind of like, I hate to say, like the Freebird set up the hat on the stage. I'm like,
yeah.
I already knew the song, and I'm thinking, what is this cornball? They're going to pull out some cornball. No, they did not. Robin Crosby really got to shine right then. I even remember the red lights they had on it. It was an amazing. I'm glad I got to hear it. I'm glad I got to see it. So anyway, I can go on and on, man. And I'd still, when I pick up my acoustic, this is the first acoustic song I always play when I'm warming up.
It is like if you go over to the record shop, they got a sign up that's a joke that says "Stairway to Heaven."
Yeah, no stairway, and maybe no Back for More.
When you go to the acoustic section, they need to put up
no. Yeah.
It is the first lick so many people learn. But what I like is you think the song is going one direction, and then the electric comes in and Blotzer comes in, and it just gets a real heavy vibe.
And I got stuck in when I first heard it. I was like, this is going to be the power ballad, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is not a power ballad.
It was.
Hats off to them for not doing a power ballad.
And this is a moment where Ratt gets to be a little different than everybody else. We've already talked about the other bands out. I don't know that this. I can take any song off of any album and come up with an example of it. Can you come up with Back for More anywhere else?
Yeah, the only one. So here we go, right? It's it's back to the Ratt influence and the Mickey Ratt influence. The only thing my ear hears that's very similar to that is Killer of Giants on Ultimate Sin on Ozzy's album. If you remember that acoustic where he's chugging the chords out.
Yeah.
Crosby, and this is why I'm a fan of Crosby too. He slowed all that down and made it very melodic. And it sounds like a simple riff. And I still say the way it was recorded is a simple riff. When I got to hear it live, it's not a simple riff. There's a lot more feel he played. I think Bo Hill told him to hurry up and get out of there. And I think that got lost. And that's one of my, if I could go back in time and we all had camcorders, I'd sneak into a Ratt concert and record what was really going on.
So let me plug one more thing here. Tomorrow night at 10 o'clock on iLogic Media, The Other Angle with Chappie and Randall. Mark, we talk about sports in a different angle there. So kind of like we do with music here. So I thought the lyrics were great, but they're very simple. But it's a turn of a word. And I want to read a little passage. You gave him an inch, he took a mile. He made you believe you're society's child. You get in his new car, you get into style. I told you this way, he won't take you far. Is that Robin Crosby writing something to Tony Katane? Because that's the way I read that.
That's why I always took it. And from about the time that was getting bigger, they were starting to break up. That, you know, you mentioned the OJ era, and then she went to, you know, later to David Coverdale or Field, whatever his name is, and Whitesnake Field. I'm going with the musician. But yeah, they had strife back then.
Yep.
And it kind of reminds me of the Kiss song too. You know, Do You Love Me?
Yeah.
It's not the glamorous rock and roll, sex and drugs and rock and roll. I mean, it's corny and it's not like a heartbreaking song, but for that era, for somebody to write a lyric like that, and that's why I kind of think Ratt kind of missed their boat. They could have, if they showed how good musicians they were and let the egos get in check, we could have had some more incredible music.
So,
but yeah, I think it's a tip of the hat to her actually the whole time. And you know, another side note, the Back for More video, they weren't together then. He brought her back to help make her famous. He still was aching for her. She's already dating other people, by the way.
You hear his behind the music and you hear her story, and you really think these are two people that loved each other, that got caught up in the LA lifestyle, greed, fame.
Yeah.
But they had been together since high school. It was like one of those true romance stories. So
yeah, they were high school sweethearts too. So you know, you kind of had that young love going on too. And then if you read, you know, quips from his obituary era, she was still loving him. Yeah. And that, you know, that's actually kind of sad.
And
got that Alice in Chains feel actually.
It's sad that at 59 she died just recently. Lost her father like 2 weeks earlier, and they asked her brother why she passed away. Our brother said she couldn't live without her dad. It seemed that her dad was a huge influence on her, and she had lost Robin Crosby. Lost, you know, there's a lot of sadness to Tony Katane's life, and we've lost Mark. Let me see if we can get him back on here again. Hold on just a second, folks.
Can you hear me? You gotta love the internet.
Hold on, let me remove.
You gotta love the internet.
The stream there. That's about the smoothest we've ever gotten back on. I gave this song the highest rating of any song on the album. I gave it a 9.5.
So I don't give things 10, but I'm like 9.5, 9.6. If you told me to, hey, you got to choose between Lack of Communication or this one, okay, whatever. They're both of them.
All right, one more question from our boy Matt for you, Mark. Was Bobby Blotzer, and I'll take this one too here a little bit. I think Bobby Blotzer was an underrated drummer. And here's what I liked about Blotzer. I love, and I guess the most comparable drummer that I can come up with to Blotzer is probably Chad Smith of the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
He plays these licks that are freeform jazz that just doesn't make sense sometimes, but when you hear it in the whole context of the album, you hear it makes sense. Also, I'll give you another thing. Bobby Blotzer seems to be the one guy that was in this band that has a little common sense and seems to have saved his money and spent it well. And he owns the name Ratt now and still plays well. I actually saw him on TV playing with, I don't remember who it was here a while back, and he was still playing well, Mark. What's your thoughts on Bobby?
Yeah, I think he's underrated too. I also think he's a good businessman. You know, he filed bankruptcy to save what little money they had left. And then on top of that, something that always impressed me, I'm not like going to say I'm a huge fan of his work, but what always impressed me, he was always striving to get better. If you listen to the later albums, he's the only one improving. His sound's better. He's more dynamic. He's tighter. He's still got that jazz mode going. But he every album he's getting better. Now, granted, there's triggers and there's backtrack and they got click track. But, you know, regardless, he is getting better on each album. And to me, that's, you know, I'm a fan of Dawkins. If you ask me about Dawkins constantly got better. And I think he was the only one in Ratt that was getting better.
So,
and
before we get off,
yeah, I agree. He's underrated.
I want to play one more thing before we get off back to more. We have 3 more songs to cover.
That was a great question.
5 minutes apiece. But I want to play you this section, Mark, and I want to get your reaction. Make sure I got the volume up this time. I'm struggling with the volume. Here we go. Love the way they come out here. Love it. Monster. You come out of that great lead riff to a perfectly syncopated harmony. Oh, just great. But that lead is just monster.
Yeah, and that's where this kind of, looking back in time of what could have been. That solo actually kind of breaks my heart a little bit because it's Crosby and DeMartini playing. And seeing them live when they didn't have a big set, they really extended that solo section out.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of material they could have used. I really thought the band shined when they both played the solos. And you got different styles. You got to hear the bending of the string versus the speed. Anyway, I love that solo, and I think it shows their teamwork when they were hitting on all cylinders.
Well, we're about to get into
Great, yeah.
The next song is probably the last one that I really am a fan of. We've had the 2 monster songs, and I like this song. I think it's really upbeat, but The Morning After is just it's a good rock and roll song. It's not great. It's just rock and roll. I remember it being live. It was kind of stuck in between some of the hit songs. And what do you think of The Morning After?
I hate it. I just hate it. I was like, and I'm like, okay, I keep sounding like a broken record now, but I know the material that they had with Mickey Ratt and why they didn't go to the well and dig. I guess you didn't want to shoot it all out there. I just don't like this song. I think it was just. I like some of the riff work in it.
Let's rate the next 3 songs because I struggle with these 3 songs. The Morning After, I'm Insane, and Scene of the Crime. Rate those 3 songs.
5s. Being generous.
Mid-order.
Okay, yeah. So you name them out, and I'll call you a number out. So The Morning After, I'm actually going to give that a 4.
Okay.
I do not like it.
I'm Insane.
A 5, and what kills me, Robin Crosby had an earlier band, and they recorded this song, and they knew what that song was supposed to sound like, and they did not nail it. His original band has got a great version of this. I give it 4.5.
Scene of the Crime.
Is a crime.
The first song on that.
I hate it. It's the worst.
I
can't listen to it. It's bad country writing. It's Scene of the Crime. It's a felony. It's horrible.
I would go Morning After, I'm Insane, Scene of the Crime would be my order. And I gave Morning After, and I like Morning After. I can tell you what I like about it. I think it's one of DeMartini's stronger moments. There's some nice finger picking in there, some nice riffing. I'm Insane. I understand what they were trying to do.
And it didn't work.
It didn't work at all. Scene of the Crime is absolutely horrid. I don't give below.
It's Cornball County Fair.
It's
Blake
like
Shelton lyrics. I can't say nothing bad about it.
Bad Warrant song married a bad Poison song.
Yes, and real quick on the the morning after, where you hear the guitar go back and forth, that was part of their live stage, trading licks back and forth.
Yeah,
between Crosby and DeMartini, and I think that's how that song got wrote. Hey, we got these riffs. What do we do with them? They should have stayed in the vault. And but Scene of the Crime, I could do a whole show on how much I hate that song.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, the lyrics. Just read the lyrics one day. It's like Dr. Seuss.
So
you asked.
Oh, I'm with you on that one. Do you think sometimes bands, and I'm telling you, this is probably one of my top 10 albums from that period.
Oh, definitely.
But
it's in my car right now.
About 2 or 3 stinkers that I would put on the bad. I don't want to hear this anymore. Matter of fact, I made a mixtape of Ratt, and I can tell you, for this album, Morning After made my mixtape. I seem to like it more than you. Back from More, Like a Communication, Indirection, Round and Around, You're in Trouble, Wanted Man. So there's 4 songs left off. And
you got to. It's killer.
I would, if this album had 4 better tracks, just C tracks, it might have sold 10 million copies. But
that's what kills me, man. Maybe it was Piercy and them not getting along already, and he was sitting on all that Mickey Ratt material. But if you go find that Mickey Ratt where he's got the whiskey bottle on the album cover, it's kind of going to make you mad a little bit, because they're demos, they're rough, but they're pretty polished, and they're almost like 90% done. And you're like, why wasn't that on the album? And why? And be honest, why in Invasion of Privacy? Why wasn't that stuff on it? They'd have been unstoppable after that. But I think the songwriting stuff got in the way. And if you look at the crappy songs, it's got some people on there that came in and out of the band a lot.
So I think you could.
Not a fan.
I think you could have took 4 or 5 songs that was already wrote that ended up on Invasion and put it on this album, delayed Invasion by a year, and wrote this album out for a much bigger touring cycle.
And so yeah, exactly. And I look at Metallica for that. If you remember the Black Album tour, they toured for like 3 years.
Yeah, wore it out. I saw them twice.
Right, I saw them twice, and it was a long time in between that. I'm like, these guys are still on tour, and I think that's what these guys should have done. Write it on the bus, do something. But no, these last songs, I was like, you're wasting my time. Still a good album though.
Great album.
And if you remember back in the day, buying an album was a risk. It'd have one good song and like 8 horrible ones. You're like, why didn't I just buy? You could buy singles back then.
Yeah, you got 6 good songs out of this. Again, we lose Mark. A little internet problem. Let me kill his feed here, and there he comes. Oh man, you're just not wanting.
I'm here. You can hear me.
So, Mark, we got about 5 minutes left, and we're out of time. It's going to signal us off here, but one more. Let's get to that. Pretty much finishes Ratt. I want to overall. We've talked about the good, the bad. Album. Is it a must-have? What is it in your opinion?
To me, this is a must-have CD. You got to have it.
It is definitely. It definitely leads to something that inspires a lot of bands.
Yeah, and if you're going to just like buy an album from that year, it would be this album, Ride the Lightning, and probably Priest.
Yep.
And you'd have a pretty good setup. So yeah, I
think we've built this one up, and it's been great. And the reason we did this album, folks, it's not a one-hit wonder. We'll be back. We don't know if it'll be 2 weeks or a month. We'll see what this does and see what Mark's schedule holds. But I want to go ahead and tease the next video, hopefully in a couple of weeks. is going to be Pantera's Cowboys from Hell. A game changer again, Mark. It's his album that. You there, buddy?
I can hear you.
Okay. Just give me a couple of quick comments about Cowboys from Hell before we leave tonight.
Yeah, so if I heard you correct, I'm hoping it's not my internet connection. But anyway, for this album,
we're losing Mark. Sorry about that, everybody. Stay with us. He'll be right back. And we'll give you a couple of seconds on Cowboys from Hell. And we'll call it a night. I'm sorry about that. It's been a little bit of internet trouble. We've got a little rain in the area right now, and I'm wondering if it's knocking Mark out. But again, you're listening to RiverCity Media. This has been the Classic Rock album review. So
I'm back.
Mark, I think it is on your end, and I just think we're dropping my cell phone signal. But anyway, give me a little more. Give me 1 minute on Cowboys from Hell.
Oh my gosh. I can't. Oh my God. I mean, first of all, you got Dimebag Darrell, who's getting banned from guitar contests, and they're a disco band, and then they meet their lead singer, and everything changes. You know, you got Rex Brown, who, in my opinion, great backup bassist. Their drummer, man, the brother,
Benny
he's
Paul.
incredible. The deep lyrics, and then, man, you've got Dimebag, man. Are you kidding me? The pig squeal, Ace Frehley influence that's been just put up on steroids. And the album, there's not a bad song on that CD, dude. First time I heard it, my brother played it for me. I didn't sleep that night. We stayed up all night listening to that CD. I mean, it was a game-changing event for me.
Let me tell you why.
It's just incredible.
Well, this is a game changer for me, and I'm going to be very honest. I haven't listened to Pantera probably since Dimebag Darrell died. It was
right.
That whole murder on stage. It got in my head a little bit, man. And I don't know why. I thought, I just was like, I'm a huge Pantera fan, but I just kind of set the band aside. So I almost suggested to you beforehand, we do Cowboys from Hell. I listened to it a little bit today. I can listen to this album with such fresh ears, Mark. I'm very excited to listen to it over the next couple of weeks and just reacquaint myself with the music.
Yeah, it's an incredible piece of music. And, you say game changer. Those guys didn't change, man. They did what they wanted to do. They played how they wanted to do. And the thing that got me, every album that came out after that got harder. You're like, man, bands don't get harder. These guys did. I mean, you hear the first album, and you go to the last one, you go, hey, that first album they put out sure is a good, easy listening CD, isn't it?
I love it.
It's just incredible how hardcore they were. And it doesn't surprise me that they did flame out.
Cemetery.
That was a lot of energy.
Is maybe my favorite Pantera song of all time. So,
and side note too, the sad part, his gravesite and his brother's gravesite, they've had to fence it off.
Yeah. What are you thinking, people? What are you thinking? We'll get into all
I understand it a little bit. You want to see them, and then, people being people. It's sad.
And Phil Anselmo's total destruction inside. I went and seen Phil Anselmo and Down, and it's like, come on, dude. You're not right in the head anymore. So we'll have a lot of fun with it. Mark, I got 50 seconds. What's your final word on Round and Round? And what did you think of the experience of doing this?
Well, my 30-second here you go is if you don't own it, you should. Not for the genre, not for the glam metal. There is some very good guitar work on it.
Right.
If you listen to the good songs on it, there's just some great songwriting on it. And It's just a shame how it went after that. And so this is the CD album to get, because after that, the ego's gotten away.
Right.
So get the EP, get this one. To me, you're done. Now, you know, I hear other rap fans go, "Oh yeah, this album, whatever." This is it.
Don't get Waco Jr. It sucks. Mark, what did you think of the podcast?
Hey, real quick, listen to Way Cool Jr. should hurt your credit score. That's all I got to say. Yeah.
What'd you think of doing your first podcast? It's a lot of fun, man.
I like it, man. You know how I am. I'm like you, man. I'm very passionate when it comes to things that I love, and music is one of the things I love.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we have to share it with somebody else.
Yeah, this is great, man. I've started RiverCity Media over 90 days. We will break 40,000 interactions sometime this month. It's been a huge support outlay from friends and family. But what I really enjoyed about this, Mark, I talk sports. You've known me since I was 14 years old. I'm Randall, the sports guy. But you also know the other side of me. We spent hundreds and thousands of miles in an old El Camino going to see shows. And I was trying to think of all the shows we saw together.
No heat.
Yeah.
No heat, no headlights. But I got a ticket.
Yeah. Fuses blowing up, stopping, buying a fuse, putting it in. We got to get there. We saw starting our sophomore year at high school till you moved to Arkansas on a permanent basis. I went down. We saw 75 concerts together. It was a great time, and it's great to be here with an old buddy and get to share something we love. And you know, I still listen to those bands too, and I still love it. Well, it looks like we lost Mark this last time, but I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the night. Hold on, we'll bring him in. Say goodnight.
Come on. Well, I'm here.
Yeah, Mark.
And it's so warm here.
Give me your last words for the night.
I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what, next time I can go get on a fiber optic connection, and I will make that happen if it's on mine.
It's raining at my house. That may be the problem. So, everybody, we appreciate you watching. Mark, let's try to do it in a couple weeks and get back on here and do this again. I'll be in contact with you.
Keeps dropping you out.
Thank you, Marion Messenger. Thank you, RiverCity Media. Owned by Annalie Cunningham. Thank you, Draft to the Upside. Thank you, iLogic Media. Thank you, Catronic Frog radio station. A lot of places, man. Mark, buddy, I enjoyed it. Have a great night. I think.
All right. Well, Randy, I appreciate it, dude.
We'll see you soon, brother. Stay here, Mark.